Hello and welcome back to AC's Make and Repair. If this is your first time on the channel, my name's Arthur. I live in North Queensland, Australia. Well, today on the channel, I'm going to be showing you how I made a little shelf out of just scrap offcuts and some second-hand timber as well. In fact, the timber I used on this, the back of it come off some wall panelling, some VJ wall panelling that was in an old bathroom that was renovated, but I know VJ looks good on the back of little shelves, so I'm going to be doing a little shelf here today, and I'm going to show you the process that I used to make this little shelf. A lot of this timber just gets thrown out. It's good timber to use still. This is a painted project, so that can cover a lot of little discrepancies in the timber or little nicks or grooves, but you can putty them up and cover them over, but you can still use them as good projects either in your own home or sell them off to make a little bit of profit margin. Okay, come along with me today. I'll show you how I did it. Well, this project started off with some old VJ wall panelling, pine wall panelling. It's a tongue and groove style. Has a little groove in the middle. This is a complete piece, but because the edges were busted off, I cut it back on either side. This is a complete piece I just showed you in my hand there. So I cut it down equal and I joined it with the tongue and groove in the middle, and with just some offcuts of pine that I had. I'm going to do some sides on this. I'm going to make a little shelf out of this, and you'll see the pine that I've got here. I'm going to use a shelf there across there and another little piece of timber for another shelf at the top. Two different size shelves. Also on the top here, I'm going to have an apex top, and I'm going to put that little board across the top there like that for the apex, just to add a little bit more design. I'm going to time myself on this. However, this timer got switched off accidentally in the middle, so I wouldn't have a clue. I'll give you a rough estimate of the time it took me when I'm finished. As you can see, I have plenty of offcuts and scrap timber around. First thing I did is cut an apex on the top of that equal. In the next stage, I measured the width of the two boards, and I proceeded to cut the two shelves for these two boards. The top shelf there was narrower than the bottom shelf, which will go roughly there. After cutting the shelves, I proceeded to sand the boards that I'd cut, and shelf, etc. that I couldn't get to. It's easy to sand them before I fit them. And this is my way of fixing the two back boards. You'll see me in a minute. I'll square it all off and I'll screw these from behind. That affixes my back and the shelves to the back. And this is the easiest and quickest way I've found to do these little projects, to secure them well. Here now I'm marking the positions of the shelves. I'll go along to square this off with the square. I square the bottom of my two backboards, so it's all running true. Square a line across. I also put a center line for a screw line, and then I'll do the same for the top shelf as well. As you can see, I go ahead and I drill a hole in each segment of that board in my screw line. So this is the center of the board, both the shelf and the center of these. I just roughly line these up by eye and drill a screw hole center. Now what this enables me to do, you'll see me screw these from behind in a minute, but I line that up and I drill that from behind, pre-drill it a little bit from behind, then screw it up. This is my top shelf. I do it the same way. This piece of timber is, and I do it the same way. I'm using 6 gauge by 30mm countersunk wood screws here. This is how I'll affix the shelves from behind. I use 6 gauge because I think 8's a bit heavy. These are only about 12mm thick shelves, about half an inch thick. So I didn't want to use heavier gauge, and these work quite fine. I then fitted the top shelf exactly the same way. Now before I do the side, I fit the capping to the top of the shelf. Now I find centre of that, and I scribe a pencil mark roughly 6mm in, because the back is about 12mm thick. And then I use some 30mm brads, and I put them in the capping first on that nail line that I put in. I've already cut the miter at the top of that because it's the same angle as I used to cut the top of the shelf itself. So I put these nails in, then I go ahead and proceed to nail them on, and I set the nails with the punch as well. I could have used a small nail gun to do these nails and brads in the top, but I actually don't mind hand nailing brads in, especially when there's a little V-grooves and that involved here. You don't want one going skew whiffing in and up out of one of those little grooves where it's a bit thinner. So I find you tend to have a bit more accuracy here too, and I actually like the hand involvement with it too. I do have many nail guns, and look, I do use them quite regularly, but just on little things like this I find it just as easy. So now the top's done, I'll go on to marking out the profile of the sides. So I use the top of the shelves to work out where I want what concave or convex in the profile. So I cut it down to length first, that's what I've gone off to do now, and then I mark out the profile as you'll see in a minute. Once I marked out one profile, I went ahead and cut it out and sanded it on both the disc sander and spindle sander. And then once I got it right according to what I wanted, I marked the other one and I cut it out also. You could use a jigsaw, bandsaw, or some sort of pattern saw or table jigsaw to do that. I sand the sides here before assembly, makes it a lot easier, shape them a bit, do some internal steps and that, and clean them up, as you can see I'm doing now. Then we just simply do the same thing. We mark the nail mark, the line for the nails to follow. Put them as a pigeon pair down the side so I don't mix up and put the nails in the wrong spots. And I go through there and nail equally all the way along. Here I'm planing the front of the shelf to bring it down level with the sides. The sides weren't quite wide enough. Like, bear in mind, this is all scrap timber and offcuts that I'm using, so I just brought it down to size with the plane. It's quite easy to do. So I wasn't really happy with the way I set the sides down lower than the capping. I could have initially taken them right up underneath the capping, but I didn't do that and I regretted doing it. So I'm knocking the capping off here, and I knock it off using a block of wood so I don't bruise it. Knock it off nice and equal so I don't damage the capping in any way. And then I actually cut the top angles down, including the sides, so they sit up nice and neat underneath the capping. It actually comes up with a better finish, I find. I use the same capping again, which fits perfectly still. Now I'll go off and cut it and refit the capping. I'm glad I did this. It actually looks more proportionate now, and I think it turned out a better job because of it. One of the benefits of using scrap timber and not having a real design to follow, just making it up as you go. I go on now to fill all the set nail holes and any minor nick or imperfection, And then it's just a matter of giving it a good sand, and I'll show you what it looks like after it's got a nice coat of undercoat on it. So here's the finished product. I'll just zoom in a bit closer so you can have a look at how it's done. As you can see, I've used a top narrower shelf, a little bit wide on the bottom. On the bottom section below the bottom shelf, you could actually put some cup hooks for holding some keys or things like that. You could quite easily use this as a key rack or a little tiny kitchen rack of some sort. Alright, thanks for joining me on this video as I made this little shelf. I would recommend on the back here, you don't necessarily have to use VJ like I have, although I believe it comes up quite well with VJ. But I would recommend you use a solid timber or a plywood. I wouldn't use particle board or MDF or things like that. Excuse me. The main reason I did this video is to show you guys you can make a terrible lot of stuff out of second-hand or offcuts or scrap timber that you have. Now, if you're anything like me, you have a lot of offcuts lying around. I do not like waste. I really find it frustrating because there's so many little tiny projects that you can make out of beautiful pieces of timber, be they from jewellery boxes right through to larger pieces of furniture even, out of second-hand timber or offcuts that you have from a job or from another project that you've already done. It's been great having you along today. If you've got any questions, put them in the comment section below and I'll endeavour to answer those questions for you. But if you like the video, please hit the like button. It costs you guys nothing, but it does help the channel and get us more viewers, and I appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed yet and you'd like to, please subscribe. And by all means, if you could, share me with your friends. That gets my content out there, grows the channel too. I've been a bit quiet lately with doing projects online because I've been so busy with other stuff going on in life, just to do with work and my wife's cancer treatment, etc. too. So bear with me with that. But this week I should get a couple up at least, and I hope you enjoy them too. Okay, till next time, bye for now.